People self-medicate PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, with opiates. After the foreign adventures that your country seems addicted to, well supported by my country, by the way, a lot of the veterans come back with PTSD hooked on opiates. It's a self-medication. So on one level, addiction is a self-medication. On a narrow medical level. But we have to go beyond that narrow medical model. But we have to recognize what's going on here. In other words, and actually, when I go around speaking about this issue, and I ask people, I won't do it now, but I did this afternoon. I asked people, well, how many of you have an addictive relationship to a substance or to a behavior? And a number of people put their hand up. And the next question is, and what did it do for you? What does it do for you? Well, it gave me peace of mind. It gave me a sense of control. It connected me to other people. It soothed my pain. It made me relax. Well, what's wrong with any of that? Who does not want to be relaxed, connected to other people, have a sense of mastery, and have less distress, have less pain? In other words, you've got to get this. The drug user, and particularly addicted drug user, just wants to be a normal human being. That's all they want. They want what life should give them, but for some reason has not. They want something we all want. Now, if we look at the drugs and their relationship to brain physiology a bit more closely, what do we find? Well, let's look at the opiates. Now, the opiates derive from the opium plant that goes in Afghanistan. They're the most powerful pain relievers that we have. So in palliative care work, in looking after the terminally ill, I could be really grateful for the opiate medications, because without that, a lot of people would suffer agony in their last weeks or months of life. But the opiates don't only soothe physical pain, they also soothe emotional pain. In fact, on brain scans, when you wound people emotionally, the same part of the brain lights up as if you wounded them physically. And that part of the brain has a lot of receptors for opiate chemicals. So opiates are pain relievers, physical and emotional pain. As a matter of fact, if you look at the substance of abuse, they all pretty much have a pain relieving quality. Alcohol, as you know, is an analgesic. They used to be used before surgery for people, before the days of anesthetic. Cocaine is a local anesthetic. It numbs nerve endings. It's still used that way in certain kinds of nose surgery. It also shrinks blood vessels so there's less bleeding. Marijuana, as you know, has pain-relieving qualities. So the real question in addiction is, and if you get nothing from this lecture except this one line, just please remember this one. The real question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. And if you understand why the pain, you can't look at genes. You can't look at choices. You have to look at people's lives, and as I said earlier, their histories. Then the second question that arises is, well, why did the opiates even work in the human brain? Well, how come this product derived from a plant in Afghanistan has such a powerful impact on human neurophysiology? Well, the answer, of course, is that we have receptors for the opiates, receptors being molecules on our cells that can receive a messenger substance. And if the messenger substance fits into the receptor, then the two together will activate the cell to do something. In fact, the messenger receptor complex tells the DNA of the cell what to do. In other words, it's the environment that turns the genes on and off. And there's a whole new science called epigenetics that looks at how environmental influences actually trigger or turn off genetic activity and therefore influence lifelong patterns of behavior and physical responses. Epigenetics. So we have receptors for the opiates. But now why do we have receptors for something derived from a plant in Afghanistan? Well, of course, the answer is we do not. What we have receptors for are our own endogenous morphine-like substances, which, to put it in abbreviated form, are called endorphins. So we have an endorphin system, we have an internal opiate system. But why do we have that? Well, first of all, for pain relief. We need to have pain relief. So when you give people an inert medication for pain and 25% actually experience genuine pain relief, it's because the belief that they're getting help released endorphins in their brains. It's a physiological effect. So we have our own endorphins to relieve pain, which we have to have. That's their first function. Their second major function, equally important, is the sense of pleasure and reward, elation, joy. Now imagine your life without that. Human life is difficult enough, so that without that sweetening of joy and elation, we would be very miserable creatures. And their third function is actually the most important one. And the person who actually discovered the endorphin system, Candace Pert, called them molecules of love, because they make possible the loving interaction between two people, and especially between infant and parent. So if you took infant mice, this study was done by a great researcher here in the state of Washington, who at least works here now, Dr. Yak Panksepp. And Panksepp showed that if you take infant mice in a laboratory and you genetically knock out their endorphin receptors, these little mice will not cry for their mothers on separation. Now what would that mean in the wild? It would mean their death.